"Never cross the river after dark." Nobody remembered who wrote it, but in a place like this, the rules are as much a part of the landscape as the trees or the smell of the water in midsummer. Marcus was the miller's son, a man with broad, blunt hands made for grinding things down. He kept the law the way he kept his father's politics, not because he'd studied them, but because questioning the furniture of your life feels like a form of ingratitude. His life followed that predictable path until a midnight disruption forced his hand. He pulled a woman named Sable from the violent river current. In his own mind, Marcus hesitated before reaching into the water. But as he told the story to the villagers the next day, that pause vanished. Through repetition, his uncertainty became a myth of instant heroic action. For Marcus, being a good man was simply a habit of birth. He had never been in a position where doing the right thing required him to lose anything he actually valued. At dawn, the village governor, Corin, arrived to enforce the law. He was a man whose authority had become structural, load-bearing, woven into the fabric of Ashvale over 30 years of full crops and safe children. Marcus put himself between the law and the woman. His fist connected with Corin's face, and the old man went down without a word, as the village watched from their doorways. The residents felt the complicated thrill of watching order break. To them, the hero had arrived. Only a few noticed that Corin, lying in the mud with his nose caved sideways, looked less like a villain and more like a tired man who had been blindsided while doing his duty. This was a performance the village understood. They celebrated the violent breakdown of their own rules because it allowed them to participate in a story of righteous rebellion without actually changing their lives. Sable healed quickly and took over the village's long-shuttered bakery. No one alive could remember who had owned it before, but Sable moved through the space as if she were returning to a room she'd only left that morning. She sold bread at prices that made the other bakers blanch. The village loved her, the way it loves disruption, when it makes life cheaper and smells like warm yeast. Marcus watched her. He saw the way she handled the ovens with a mechanical certainty that didn't match her story of being a helpless survivor. The questions began to stack up in his mind, unasked. He noticed details that didn't fit. She knew the hidden floorboards, how she watched the village square. He chose not to mention it. This silence accumulated, becoming a heavy, unspoken weight between them. The village protected her, not out of a sense of justice, but out of a sense of gain. Her presence was a bargain they happily accepted, ignoring the predator's focus behind her eyes, in exchange for a cheaper loaf. Corin, meanwhile, was looking for a reason. He believed reasons and justifications were the same thing, and he spent his recovery digging through the village records to find out where this woman had actually come from. He found a census from 83 years ago. A family had crossed the river after dark. The law was invoked, and their entire history in Ashvale was systematically dismantled. The village took the mill, the bakery, and 3 homes, redistributing their wealth. Their name was expunged with bureaucratic thoroughness, keeping the past unreadable. Sable carried that erased name. She hadn't come to start a business, she came to reclaim a crime scene. Corin presented the papers to Marcus, still insisting the law kept the village safe. But Marcus looked at the dates and the seized assets, and realized the law had been weaponized to provide the very foundation of his father's mill. The peaceful order of Ashvale was built upon the quiet, legal theft of everything that Sable's family had once owned. When Marcus confronted her at the bakery, Sable didn't deny it. She admitted she had used the river and the rescue to bypass the village's defenses. Marcus hadn't been her savior, he had been her most useful pawn. He had rehearsed a moral argument, but it died in his throat. He realized that if Sable succeeded in her reclamation, his own family would lose the mill. His heroism ended where his inheritance began. Marcus went back to Corin. They sat in the dark and made a plan to remove Sable legally and quietly, ensuring the census remained buried and the property stayed in the hands of the people currently holding it. Marcus told himself he was choosing order over grievance. He convinced himself that generations-old wrongs were too messy to fix, and that her deception gave him the moral high ground to betray her. Systemic complicity is built on these small, comfortable decisions. the choice to value a familiar life over a disruptive truth. By the time the men arrived at the bakery, Sable was gone. She had swept the floors and left the building in a state of prepared emptiness, as if she had expected the betrayal from the start. She left only a map. Every building in Ashevale was labeled with two names, the legal name used by the current owners, and the real name of those who had lived there 80 years ago. Marcus found the entry for his father's mill. He looked at the names of who built it, then he folded the map into a small square and hid it away in his coat. Across the river, in the village of Dunmer, a new bakery has just opened. The woman there has a face that is difficult to remember, but a manner that suggests she already knows exactly who owns the land beneath her feet. A buried history stays alive in the geography of the next town over, waiting for the river to carry the same debt into a new set of complicit hands.